Christian just showed me another picture of a Cartier tank.
It's a good story.
Cool. This watch. Like,
yeah, I know. That's gonna read on my tombstone. Obsessed with the most boring watch of all time, the Cartier tank.
what do you think of this watch? The Cartier tank? Yeah, what do you think?
It's an icon. I was at dinner one time with Anna, and I said a Porsche 911, okay, is a nice car.
Yes.
And she goes, a what? And I said a Porsche 911.
A Porsche. Picture of Porsche.
Porsche. What do you mean? And I was like, you don't know what a 911 looks like?
You know what a Porsche looks like?
You know what a Porsche looks like? You know? She's like, no. I said, I think we saw 3 coming here.
You said one drove by or something?
One drove by. I said, I think we parked behind one. You've never seen that very iconic car. And keep in mind, like, before this, the conversation was, like, pretty neutral and pretty wish-washy. And then I was like, wait, hold on. You have lived your entire life and have never noticed that you've seen thousands of this one particular type of car.
That looks different.
Like, are you kidding? Mm-hmm. You know? And she's like, nope. I was like, I can't sit with you. I can't have this conversation.
Yeah, you ended dinner, right?
Well, we didn't. I don't think we talked for the rest of dinner. I think we finished the dinner, yeah. And it sounds stupid, but it wasn't stupid. I still stand by my opinion. I mean, how do you not know?
I don't understand why you...
What is up, Watch Fan? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Watch Shop.
I'm Michael, and this video is sponsored by Masterworks.
More on them later.
Yeah.
Today we're going to take a very casual approach to this episode. We're going to talk about a couple of things. John Goldberger's newest Hodinkee Talking Watches.
John Goldberger's collecting style in general a little bit.
Yes.
Because it's
if
iconic.
you don't know who John Goldberger is, he's probably one of the most, prominent collectors of watches in the world. He would probably disagree with that.
But secretly in his head,
he knows.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Behind every humble, it's not an egotist, but it's like, yeah, I probably do one of the best collections in the world. That's on a factual level.
I guess I don't have the best collection in the world, but everything I do online blows up.
Yeah.
And I take horrible pictures of my wrist and I get trillions of likes.
Yeah. You know what is kind of funny, though? I will say, what's interesting about, the whole John, and we'll talk more about this later, but is it does very well, but by the numbers, their celebrity stuff does way better, naturally. Wow, the greatest display of watches this year got
on a watch
no
channel.
Views compared to,
John Mayer's hands
Yeah,
trying to
right.
sell you another Casio.
Yeah, exactly. He's
He's like, please, it's blue this time.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my God.
We'll talk about the John Mayer Casio as well. And I want to tell you guys a really interesting story about a fake Cartier. I mean, this is a phenomenal story. We're going to leave it for the end.
Yes.
But you don't really understand the level of fraud. I mean, f***ing fraud.
Hey, if there's money, there's fraud.
That happened. And secret twist, not by a secret twist.
Secret twist. It was me. You're not going to believe how I did it. I was just thinking you saying it dead serious. It's a secret twist. I committed it.
I committed the fraud. Secret twist. It wasn't a felonious third party. It was Cartier themselves.
It was me.
And it happened many times.
It wasn't a felonious party. It was me.
It was
Christian Zerone.
felonious. Zerone, Theo and Harris. That's what the name
my
comes
God. Stop asking me, please.
Stop asking me, God. John Goldberger's collection. Okay, John Goldberger is one of the most prolific collectors in the world. We know this. John Goldberger's collection focuses on, watches, vintage watches.
Yes.
Patek Philippe. He's a leader in Cartier watches.
You found a cool... I have the Zenith right here. You found a cool Zenith. He found a cool Zenith 1-of-1 made in platinum with a platinum bracelet.
Yes. Was it platinum? I thought it was white gold.
I think it's platinum.
Oh my God, he's nuts,
It's
man.
that level of...
It is white gold. But it doesn't
Oh, it's
matter.
white gold. Okay, it's white
still
gold. Sorry.
insane.
The coolest watch you brought to the table, Goldberger has that in a different metal.
Yes.
That's just you're like, what?
In a bracelet that you've never ever seen made before. Now, here's the interesting part about Goldberger's watches, and it's really something that existed and will probably never really exist again. I mean, unless we go through a complete, renaissance of not watchmaking, but of commission, right? Cartier is now commissioning watches for its best clients.
Sure.
This is happening quite often, and people own many of them. Some people own multiple, 3, 4, 5. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. I would love to have a custom Cartier one day. I don't think I will get a custom Cartier, but I would love to have one. That being said, there certainly is a crazy charm about in the 20th century when Cartier made a custom watch. Mm-hmm. It was so fucking rare. It's almost unbelievable that it exists.
Because their regular retail watches were rare.
Right. Keeping in mind, in a previous episode, we discussed Cartier's production in general. We're talking about, in some years, it was under 10, under 5 Cartier tanks. Think about this. Cartier, one of the most prominent luxury companies in the entire fucking world, who was a prominent luxury company back then, too, made 5 tanks that year. Made 9.
Right.
For the world.
That's luxury. It's like, we don't care. We made 6.
We don't care.
We stopped at 6.
Exactly. So that's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. But now, as you know, now there's kind of a Indiana Jones thing there, right? Like, who's the genius that can, or not the genius, but who's the Indiana Jones?
Who's the person that calls himself the genius?
Go and find this one of one, super rare, never to be seen again.
Right.
Watch, like, it's insane.
Yeah.
That will never happen again because the custom watches are custom watches. Everyone knows they exist. Everyone knows how you get one if you're allowed to get one.
Yep.
And
it's all now. Well, it's
great.
That's Waco's watch.
That's Waco's watch. That's this one's watch.
That's not some dude. That's not some banker with the Patek Ultra Complication or something like that. It's not some banker in Manhattan who wanted the stars on his watch. It's Waco.
Right. Exactly. Right.
You know Waco. You hear all those
YouTube
videos.
You want it in salmon.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that. That's it. So, and that's beautiful. And we're not throwing any shade. Like, it's a great thing.
No.
But it's very different.
Yes.
It's very different than this very elusive hunt for ultra rare.
Sure.
And John Goldberger is a collector of super, super rare shit like that. And a big example wasn't just dial color, but like bracelets. They would, and metal, but metal of the bracelet, but also the bracelet themselves. They would like, these brands, whether it was Cartier or Zenith or whatever, Patek, like if you were a big client, it wasn't just like, hey, will you allocate me a Nautilus?
Right.
No.
That's a horrible life that we live in now.
It was, I don't know. I want the watch that you make. I want it in white gold. But I don't know. I'd love for you to surprise me with a new bracelet, a different bracelet that I haven't seen before. Maybe something thinner. I like it thinner.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay. Oui, monsieur.
Oui.
Oui. And they would make this one-of-a-kind piece that is not just rare and not just beautiful and not just expensive, but it is an objective, it's objective proof, or it's proof, tangible proof of how much work they would put in to making you happy. As opposed to now, it's, hey, guy waited his turn, he spent a bunch of money, let's give him a Nautilus. Or let's give him a green Nautilus, right? Which is great, and it's very cool. I'm not on Patek. Patek does special things for big clients still, and that
Sure.
But no, what's happened with Cartier is a little bit different. It's not that treasure hunting anymore.
Yep.
It's just not.
Yeah.
John Goldberger has this stuff, and it's just crazy to look at some of these watches. Here's an original Panerai 6152 on a matching Hermes strap. Talking about original Panerais here.
That's insane.
And this Panerai is in better condition than the Zenith Daytona that we just talked about.
Yeah, truly.
It's just, it's crazy. I love these enamel dials. He has quite a few of them. This is a vintage rose gold enamel dial Omega Constellation. Now everyone knows, well, not everyone knows, but it's widely known that the Omega Constellations have always come with a constellation observatory, right, in Geneva that looks at the stars, looks at the constellations on the case back. It's the inscription. But with Omega, with this very rare watch, they actually, with enamel, painted the constellation on the dial front. And this was not found in a store. You didn't go into a store and get the enamel one.
Yeah,
a special Omega client said, I love it on the case back, but I love everyone to see it.
Can you paint it in enamel?
Now, what a brand that does do stuff like that is JLC.
Yes.
Don't want to talk too much about it, but JLC does do that. If you are, willing to be so thoughtful and willing to be so kind of like, it's expensive, it's money,
Yeah.
They will do, whether it's custom engraving or custom painting or enamel, they offer bespoke service like that. Very rare in the watch industry. Very rare.
Right.
But back then, obviously, this dial work was just insane. So anyway, it was good to see Goldberger again. I love his watches. Obviously, some of the watches. This is a crazy Patek World
They're
time.
that's the thing. These are just truly all of these watches. You're like, I've never seen that watch.
Yes.
And it's not like some random brand that dissolved. It's like, I've never seen that Patek.
Yes.
I've never seen that Rolex. I've
Yes.
never seen that Zenith.
Yes, it's wild what he's got, and he'll tell you that a lot of it, and I'd be interested to know how much of it. But he says a lot of it was purchased in a different era, when things were less expensive.
Yeah.
His collection, I think probably I would say, but in the deca millions, deca millions
unbelievable,
for sure.
Yeah.
And listen, the guy didn't pay cheap money. He paid
Of
a
course.
ton of money.
He's not like, well, I was paying $1,000 for
Right,
these.
but
right.
comparably speaking, it was cheap. But it was a different era.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting about his story, and he said it on the first He Talking Watches, was his parents were art collectors.
Right, and this was his art.
And when they went to these, flea markets, he would venture off to the watches.
Right.
It's so interesting.
It is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a market to be venturing over to the Patek section or the Cartier tank section, but
his
still.
His parents were art collectors. My parents had to fight off bill collectors.
My parents were fighters. They were bulls.
Yeah. But anyway, that was really cool. The point, and this is a beautiful maxi oval Cartier. I don't know if I would buy it or wear it because it's an odd shape, but what a watch.
So, there's obviously a lot of volatility in the watch market, in, the smallest section to the biggest section. There's also volatility in the stock market, real estate, everything like that. But it is very important to diversify, and there is a sector that I feel like, I know, in fact, was very exclusive, and now it's opening up to the world. That is,
and it's the art world, and it's not just exclusive, but it's been growing and increasing in value at remarkable rates for decades.
It's not a new thing.
It's not a new thing,
Not
and
at all.
it's just been completely unapproachable, right? I don't know about you guys, but most people that I know aren't most people that I know actually.
Yeah. Some people are.
Actually, quite a lot of people that I know do, but throwing around $50-100 million like it's nothing.
Exactly.
That is very prohibitive. Masterworks. What Masterworks does is basically it's fractional ownership of this art. They, through their Masterworks platform, allow you, an investor, to own a small fraction, to hop on the boat, really, and with all of their clients, and now they've got 600,000 clients, right? People who have trusted Masterworks online. They buy art, right?
Yep.
Remarkable art, blue chip names, Picasso, Banksy, Monet, and buy, sell, return. What kind of profits? The last three sales were what?
Ready? They were 13.9%, 17.8%, and 21.5% net returns.
So honestly, it's insane,
Yes.
and it's no surprise then why so many people all over the world have been trusting Masterworks and really taking advantage of the opportunity that they've been able to deliver. Really, they're democratizing what has always been a great investment.
And inflation, obviously, we all know, is going crazy. The average portfolio right now is down 30%. But what's crazy, though, is the last time inflation was this high, contemporary art appreciated at an average yearly rate of 13.5%.
Unbelievable.
It's just a sector that I feel like definitely is worth a look. We're not financial advisors, but even Paul Allen's collection sold for a record $1.5 billion.
Unbelievable. The art world is the big boy world. Again, I've been in watch auctions many times, and while I've been very excited to be there, we were made very well aware that it was the art auction that was just in the room
watch
over.
guy, yeah, right. You get your little
the
watch.
large money auction. The art, it's two totally different games.
Yeah. So like you said, over 600,000 people have signed up. And with inflation and markets changing so much, more and more people are trying to sign up. Yep. But you can skip the wait list by following our link in the description.
Yep. I highly recommend you go ahead and do it. It's a blast, becoming educated as well on these pieces of art that you are a minority but owner of.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. And as people who just love the history in watches, and people who are appreciative of luxury, how could you not be interested in taking a shot and owning a piece of a Picasso? It's crazy.
I know.
It's fantastic. So thank you to Masterworks, and really everyone, go take a look. Use the link down in the bio and go explore on your own because I really love Masterworks. So go take a look, guys. Post that I saw on Instagram just the other day, and I'm going to read it to you. It's amazing.
Okay, ready?
Ready?
Yep.
I feel vintage Cartier have always had a special place in the watch collecting due to their value and rarity. Originals were handmade in Paris, London, or New York, and with numerous minor variations, the first brand to be professionally faked. I have great memories from when I started in watches, my mentor discussing with his senior watchmakers as they took a Cartier apart, each examining and discussing the originality, other dealers arriving to give their opinion. I would stand outside trying to get a view, listening to them discuss, wide-eyed and eager to learn. As an example of this unique issue with Cartier, while working at Bonhams in 2005, an elderly gentleman came into the Bond Street office with a beautiful, iconic gold 1970s Cartier London tank. I took the watch apart to check the date, and I was amazed. It had no gold hallmark, no case signature, and no numbers. The case and buckle were completely blank. Putting it back together and returning it to the client, I apologized, as I couldn't sell it, as technically it was fake. I had to admit I had never seen a Cartier that appeared in every way genuine, yet couldn't be. The owner was an honest-looking man and explained to me that he used to work for Cartier London in the 1970s and always wanted the tank and couldn't afford it. Apparently, a good friend of his in Cartier workshop offered to make him one and sell it to him at a heavily discounted price. The owner was happy to buy it and never thought to ask any questions. Obviously, his friend at Cartier sold it to him off the books, so he couldn't stamp, number, or hallmark it. I've never seen that watch offered publicly and hope the owner gifted it to someone with the story and telling them it couldn't be sold, only worn and admired as a work of art. First of all, to say it can't be sold is
a lie. Because I'd buy it.
I'd buy it right now.
Yeah.
I'd buy that watch and that story.
I'd be so much more likely to buy it with that story.
Right. Now, I guess there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, how interesting.
Yeah. How bizarre.
Clearly, it's not a Cartier authorized watch.
Yeah.
Cartier didn't profit from this watch. This is, I would say, not so much fake as it is stolen.
100%, yeah. From Cartier?
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
The Cartier watchmaker stole the case. Unless he put some money from his own pocket into the till. He stole the case, stole the crown, stole the dial, assembled everything. Mm-hmm. Never hallmarked, naturally, and sold it to his friend.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And if he
had a lot of friends.
Made the case himself, it was certainly with Cartier molds.
Which has also happened before.
Which leads us into the second conversation here, which is the most famous example of this is with the Cartier crash.
Really?
Yeah. I think I mentioned this in a lot before. There are Cartier crashes out there, London, not Paris.
Oh, yes.
That are widely known to be, you can use the word fake, you can use the word stolen.
Sure.
They are watches that were not authorized by Cartier, but manufactured off the books by an employee of Cartier.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And sold to friends or sold to the friends of friends, to the public.
Yeah.
These watches often are stamped, but with dubious stamps, right? Different import hallmarks.
Oh, yes. England or something?
Yes, to avoid prosecution in France or London. I think they're stamped France to avoid prosecution in England. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Now, this is extremely relevant because last week at Phillips, there was a very questionable Cartier crash came up for auction.
Okay.
Now, how familiar are you with recent Cartier crash results?
As in prices? Very unfamiliar. I know they've gone up.
So there was an auction house just a couple of months ago that sold a Cartier crash, I believe, for $1.8 million.
Wow.
Okay, a Cartier crash London for $1.8 million.
Wow.
So this had box and paper, and it was from the first year of manufacture. So it was a rare watch.
1927?
Crash? Yeah. No. 1960 something.
Oh.
61.
What is 27? What happened then?
I think you just made that up.
Something happened.
1927. Something with Otto von Bismarck.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Now, an Instagram account called Perez Scope.
Who has sniped
many
millions of things.
Yes. Tagged Phillips Auction House with their Cartier trash.
Whoa. The caption is Cartier trash in New York.
Cartier trash in New York.
Wow.
So here is his post. Red flags everywhere, a strange crown, an unusual dial, an odd movement with unseen American import code when codes were no longer required, a weird case that resembles much later cases, and a very peculiar hallmarks that looks cast rather than stamped. Something appears to be terribly rotten in New York's Phillips watches. So now he provided all the photos to look at other real Cartier crashes that he knows are real, and he sees the differences between those and this.
Wow.
Even
yeah.
the signature.
I mean, you could look at it right away and say that's a weird looking watch.
Certainly different. Different doesn't always mean fake,
Sure.
but it is certainly different. Look at the difference in the numeral as well. Very interesting.
Wow.
All of it is different.
Yeah.
This, to me, was the most, incriminating. If you know anything about gold and cast versus stamped, this is stamped.
Yep.
This was cast. This watch, this case back, was never, very clearly, never stamped with those numbers, but the numbers were already in the cast when the gold was filled in.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
Which never would have happened with a legitimate watch. That just doesn't happen because these numbers change and the stamps change.
You're not producing these in mass quantities. And
It's never supposed to happen anyway. It's
Yeah.
always supposed to be stamped.
Okay, got it.
So he had that's pretty incriminating. The crash estimate was $400,000 to $800,000. Again, keeping in mind one just sold for $1.8 million.
Of course.
I would have said this would have gone around 1.2.
Okay.
Okay, because Phillips always underestimates.
You sure?
The crash sold for $360,000. So it wasn't pulled, which is interesting as well, because a lot of times when there are last minute people that say stuff about watches that are maybe true or
You're like, okay, well.
auction houses say
Right, of course.
let's.
This is our reputation.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Not to mention it's just blatant fraud.
Well, yeah, of course,
serious
of
fraud.
course.
So the fact that this watch went for so far under estimate, I'm interested.
Of course.
What happened here? Does the buyer know about this story and said, whatever, 360, I kind of like it. I like it
kinda
at
cool.
360.
Yeah.
Or was the buyer very surprised the bidding didn't go any higher? And will only come to find out later why it was so
They're not
low.
on the internet. They're like 360, assuming that like that guy, assuming they're gonna get outbid, and it's like you win.
Oh, what the fuck?
That's crazy because the other one
Weird,
just
right?
went for 1.8 million.
Nuts.
That's
Isn't that
that's so
nuts?
low to the point where if you make that bid, you're like, it should not be over.
400? Anybody? Anybody 400?
You're looking at some of the most prominent watch collectors in the room, being like,
410.
the market can go down. Our money doesn't go down.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a real pickle. What will happen here? The answer is we'll never know. Of
course.
I know people that have bought watches from auction houses that turned out to be fake, and the auction houses ultimately basically just say, shut the fuck up about it. We'll take the watch back. We will give you
Take care of you.
credit.
Yep.
We will waive our fees in the future. But this does not.
You shut up. Stop
Yes.
now.
Exactly.
Whoa.
So I'm not saying that this would happen. I'm not even saying this watch is fake. I'm saying that Periscope made some very interesting observations.
Yes.
And to me, as a buyer, if I didn't know about that, I would be flipping the fuck out.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Can you imagine finding that 3 months later? You're wearing the watch, scrolling on Instagram, and you're like, whoa.
What is going on?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? What do you say then? You're out because really, if that watch is just fake, I mean, if it's just
Fake.
fake, and keeping in mind, the example we said before about a Cartier watchmaker making a watch off the books,
Sure.
that doesn't necessarily need to be the case here. That happened with crashes. This
Yeah.
could just be a fake crash. This
Oh,
could
yeah.
just be someone not affiliated with Cartier at all.
Just made a crash.
Remolded a case and made a dial, and that's it. They just made a fucking crash.
Yeah.
And their profit on that watch would be somewhere in the vicinity of $360,000.
What do you think? If you were gonna fake a crash, would you want any differentiating things? If you know it's gonna go for that much?
Well, no, you don't want any differentiating things. You want that watch to be as real as possible,
Right.
Or
It's
look
just-
as real as possible. But people fall short.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
If I was faking a watch and I knew what the real one looked like, I would probably be like, it's not there yet.
Right, just make the dial again. Let's just
Exactly.
make another dial. What does it cost us to make another dial?
Yeah, you and me faking.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's amazing, and this has been known to happen in these circles of super high end Cartier because Cartiers are relatively simple to make.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a square.
It's a regular old
The
case,
crash isn't, but you know what I mean.
easy to cast.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
No.
The movements are rare, so finding one is difficult. But the movements aren't like
They're not complicated.
Right.
Yeah, there's no date.
Nothing, not even the date, right?
Yeah, right.
These are not inherently expensive things. A Cartier crash, if it wasn't a Cartier crash, if no one cared about it, I mean, what are its comps? $20,000, Patek Calatrava?
Yeah.
Like, it's $20,000 watch.
Yeah.
You know, with a bunch of desirability that brings it up, you know, crazy.
Wow. So he either got a steal or he got stolen.
I think that he bought a watch that is questionable. No.
Oh, definitely.
Certainly, I think the watch is wrong. Yeah, I think that Periscope. I'm not saying it is, but I think that his observations are really clear. He's done it before.
I was gonna say he's nailed it quite a bit, right?
So
who is this person?
His name is Jose. He says his name.
Oh, okay.
I think he used to. I don't know what he does. I don't even know this.
Wow.
He's just a shark.
Wow.
A total shark. So, yeah, crazy.
I mean, it would be really fun if you're that guy these people hate just because you're just like, you're selling another fake watch, guys.
Yeah.
And they're like,
yeah.
You know?
He did it to Antiquorum a bunch of times with Patek 1518.
I remember
he did
that,
it a lot of
yeah,
times. It's fucked up.
Yikes.
Anyways, be careful out there, everybody.
Yep, with your $1 million
With your $1 million.
Careful.